In this video, I really want to talk about the color bubblegum. We actually just saw Lee Livesey nearly win the Bassmaster Classic fishing a couple of different bubblegum colored baits. Now, bubblegum is not new to bass fishing. This is a color that has been used for a long time, but I do think that a lot of guys have put it down over the years, and there are a few situations where I have used it over the years that it is second to none. It is the best color that you can use in a couple of different situations and with a couple of different techniques. So in this video, we're going to talk about those. Now, before we get into it, this video is actually brought to you by ARC Rods and Reels. Guys, I don't know if you know this, but I've been with ARC Rod and Reels for a number of years now. And for those of you that don't know, I actually approached them. I had used several of their products and I'm like, hey, I would really love to start a relationship with you guys because I just love your stuff so much. And I really, truly mean that. Now, a lot of you guys don't know this, but recently ARC has actually given me a coupon code to give to you guys, which is just BFHQ, which gets you 10% off of anything on their website, just using the coupon code BFHQ. And I'm actually really excited about one of the new reels that they have out. I'm gonna do a full review on this after I use it for a lot, but this is the new G2 reel, which is actually a $100 reel. With that coupon code, that brings it down to about 90 bucks. But I'm really excited to use this because it is built almost the exact same way as the G5s and the G7s, which are the reels that I have used for a long time. But those reels are $170, $230 reel, where this one is 90 bucks, again, with the coupon code. So really pumped to try this out. But with that being said, I've used a lot of their rods and reels for a long time. Like I said, I love their G5, I love the G7. You can get 10% off, use that coupon code down below. All right, let's talk a little bit about bubblegum. Now, my first experience with a bubblegum was not me throwing it. It was me getting absolutely spanked by a different guy. I remember a number of years ago, I was fishing a tournament on a local body of water here in Ohio, actually on Buckeye Lake, for those of you that are familiar with it. And I was fishing this event kind of in the pre-spawn of the year. And there was a bunch of these like lily pads, like kind of, they weren't really like close together lily pads. They were kind of sporadic lily pads, a little bit more sparse. And I was fishing a number of baits in these lily pads. I was flipping them. I was throwing like a regular spinner bait through them. And I will never forget this day because it literally was like like I said, it was my first experience with bubblegum. But I went through this like one little patch of lily pads and I caught 2 fish out of it. And I'm like, honestly, I thought I was doing good. And this guy pulls up behind me, like not too close to be too close, but he was far enough away, and all of a sudden I hear him set the hook and catch a fish. I'm like, dang it, I missed one. Then like a couple minutes later, he sets the hook. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And before I know it, I'm telling you, he caught like probably 7 or 8 bass in this little area that I had just gone through. And of course, me as an angler, I was probably about 17 years old. I'm eyeballing it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm eyeballing it. I'm like, what is he throwing? And sure enough, he was throwing a spinnerbait, but this spinnerbait had a pink kicker blade on it. And I was like, it was very easy to see, a little pink kicker blade. And I'm like, I remember thinking in my mind, there's no way that is the deal. Well, long story short, I ended up finishing that tournament. I didn't cut a check, didn't really do well in that tournament. That guy won the tournament. Of course he did. And I came back to that lake the week later with that bubble. I found a bubblegum kicker blade, put it on one of my spinner baits, and I'm telling you, I wrecked the fish on it. Now, over the years, what I have learned is that in pretty much the pre-spawn period, having something that has a little bit of that bubblegum and or red and or orange, I think is a really, really good thing. And in particular, it doesn't have to be a full bait. You know, it doesn't have to be the whole bait. Sometimes it can just be part of your bait. For example, like that little spinner bait that guy was throwing. And so anytime that I fish in the pre-spawn, man, I cannot tell you how many times I have caught fish on something that has a little bit of bubble gum to it, reddish. I mean, they're all kind of in that same spectrum. But anyways, we've seen the exact same thing happen here recently with Lee Livesey. You know, Lee Livesey was fishing the Morning Dawn colored jackhammer, which Good luck finding it. It can't be found anywhere, but guys, you can find a lot of pink skirting material and simply put it on a jackhammer if you really wanted to. But that bait, he did really, really well on it. And it kind of reminds me a lot of when guys were catching them on just a standard like fire crawl, red colored chatterbait a number of years ago. Like, it's the latest thing, so everybody's buying them up. But anything kind of in that spectrum, that reddish, that orangish, that pinkish, can work really, really well in the pre-spawn. Now, there are also a few techniques that I really like bubblegum, which is why I have this one right here. And the biggest one is a floating worm. A floating worm is about to be a huge player. As a matter of fact, right now, it may be a huge player where you live. Pretty much anywhere from the immediate pre-spawn to really the post-spawn time frame, I throw a floating worm a lot. So like right before those fish go up to beds, when you have a lot of fish up in shallow water, even when the fish are on beds and shortly after the beds, I'm telling you what, one of the best baits to throw is a bubblegum trick worm like the one that I'm holding right here. Now, I've done a lot of videos on the floating worm technique. I'm not gonna fully explain it in this video, but basically, the floating worm technique doesn't necessarily mean the worm is actually floating on the surface. I'm gonna use a bigger, almost like octopus style hook with this. You can use like a standard wacky rig. I like to wacky rig it, put it right through the center. I'm gonna cast that bait out, I'm gonna let it sink just below the surface, and I'm gonna pop it right below the surface. And the bass just come up there and annihilate it. And I have seen so many times over the years where you can fish behind people with that technique with a bubblegum worm and absolutely like blister them. I was fishing a Bassmaster Open just a number of years ago on Lake Norman, and I was following guys going into pockets, and these guys were throwing buzz baits, flipping jigs, throwing glide baits, and I could follow them up with a bubblegum floating worm, and I was just, I mean, it just seemed like I was getting bit constantly. And so really, again, that immediate, like right before the spawn, through the spawn and into the post spawn, this is a great time to throw this technique. And I'm just gonna cast it by visible cover anywhere that I think bass are sitting, and I'm just gonna work it just below the surface. I'm telling you, if you guys have not gotten on a floating worm bite, it is by far one of the best. Now, I have used a lot of different colors in a floating worm before. I've used your whites and your methylates and your like iridescent greens and yellows, but I always seem like, it just seems like to me, when in doubt, I just put the bubblegum on, because I've had so much success with it, and it's caught me a lot of fish. The other technique is kind of similar, which is actually a fluke. You know, if you fish baits like a Zoom fluke weightless, or like a caffeine shad weightless. Again, this is similar to what we saw Lee Livesey do. He was fishing a weightless flush by 6 cents. That was that kind of bubblegum color. This is something that's been like a deal for a long time. Guys fishing pink flukes. And I've seen it a lot up in the northern part of the country, because if you fish around smallmouth, man, I'm telling you what, a bubblegum fluke during that pre-spawn to post-spawn time frame is one of your best baits to catch a lot of big smallmouth. And I'm talking like big smallmouth. And so really, I'm just gonna work it like you would a normal weightless fluke. I'm gonna cast it out there, I'm gonna pop it along, this thing's darting all over the place, and it just gets some really big bites. The other thing when it comes to bubblegum that I always like to experiment, we talked a little bit about smallmouth, but also spotted bass. Spotted bass are just kind of like their own creature in themselves. Like, they tend to be a little bit more aggressive. And so I have seen a couple of times over the years where simply using a bubblegum colored whatever bait around spotted bass will get me an extra couple of bites. And so the other thing that I've mentioned before, and you won't see it happen until it happens in like a big tournament, and then everyone will be like, this is the deal. But think about a bubblegum colored jig, a swim jig, right? I love to fish a swim jig, and I love to fish a floating worm. And if you mix the two together, you have a bubblegum colored swim jig. I'm telling you what, I have done this, and I've even filmed it where I've caught a lot of fish on a bubblegum swim jig. And I know that it sounds crazy, but just think about the bubblegum chatterbaits, think about the bubblegum spinnerbaits. A bubblegum swim jig, it can be really good pre-spawn to post-spawn. So, all right guys, hope you enjoy this video. Don't forget to check out the ARC rods. Don't forget to check out, use that coupon code BFHQ. I will see you guys tomorrow.